consequences are in your little game. Haven't I always paid?
Indeed. François Villon.
Bitterness.
Johann Strauss.
Bats.
Peter Weiss.
Circle.
Hello, my friends and fellow creatures.
Kafka.
Castle.
You know what time it is. It is time for another Blue Review. This is going to be Blue Review 128. Let me tell you a little story about the original Blue Review 128. I went to the film, I went to the cinema, courtesy of channel patron Tim Tolbert. Please clap. And I enjoyed the movie. It was inscrutable and weird. I did sleep a little in it because of my sleep apnea. I'd gone to work first. But it's made a great impression on me. I really want to see it again. There's things I think that really kind of resonated. Anyway, I reviewed it, and my review was pulled because of the thumbnail graphic I used apparently with some copyright transgression against one of the studios, not even the main one, that helped produce and finance this film, and they happened to see somehow, through some algorithmic madness, excuse me, bringing my hair down, my image, and decided that I was, I was plagiaristic. I wasn't plagiaristic. I was just using a thumbnail to illustrate. Isn't that what they're for? Isn't that what the posters were for, to get people to see the movie? Anyway, so I had a big violation. YouTube made a big deal about it, and so I just took the contents of the original video, I cloned them, and I made a brand new file title so there wouldn't be any confusion. So that, because it picked up that file name, number 120, just Blue Review 128 : Crimes of the Future. So I made it Blue Review number space 129 : Crimes of the Future. So I'm ready to move in with just Blue Review 128, and hopefully they don't pick that up algorithmically, because it's not going to be anything about Crimes of the Future, any graphics that are, to my knowledge, owned by any foreign producers. So I don't know if I can cover this one extensively right at the moment. I'm going to tap my memory. I want some help. If I'm wrong about some details, please tell me. I'm doing an Extreme Forgotten. Back again. And this one is, I'll go ahead and say, it's another Jesus Franco film. It's not nearly as important to me as Venus and Furs, which I did a two-parter of recently. I hope you'll check it out. But it was among the very first Jess Franco films I saw all the way through. The first was Count Dracula. I saw it on TV in 1970, let's say 5 or 6. I loved it. And then I read the Dracula. I had just read the Dracula novel, actually. And I was very young. And I'd only learned to read not long before that. But I was devouring stuff. Horror movies really inspired me, and science fiction a little bit later. Predominantly. Of course, comic books. Got me to read. And seek out books, novels, literature that a lot of kids my age were not reading, didn't care about. So, few of us did. And, Marvel Comics was a gateway drug to a lot of that, I'll say. And I treasure that. Beyond Roy Thomas and Marvel Comics, especially in his little continuity core, as I called them, like Mark Grunwald, Rob Macchio, those guys. Philip was a farmer, was like a one-man factory of kind of taking what Roy was doing to a terminal point with his genealogies, tying all of these comic book and pulp and classic literature, heroes, adventurers, and villains, and sorted weirdos into one family tree, the Walt Newton tree, which had an inestimable effect on my life, not just in my work then and how hard I followed it and tried to find new aspects to it, and even tried to kind of add my own, but how I dipped into the fandom and then started adding my own on the sites where they were kind of marginally semi-authorized, though, not necessarily read by Farmer himself, until when Scott Eckert created a book called Myths of the Modern Age and brought Farmer's oeuvre pertaining to his Walt Newton family into contact with the fandom going pro element, largely spearheaded by Win Scott Eckert. Myths for the Modern Age is an amazing book. It's like the next generation of the Walt Newton universe. And there was going to be a second book, and I got approved to do a lengthy essay in it called Walt New Orleans. It was wild. It was actually a piece of a vast piece I was writing called Twisted in Texas. Anyway, the pastiche days are behind me. But speaking of pastiche, Jess Franco was kind of into it himself. He loved old adventures, movies. He loved krimis. He loved pulps. He loved jazz. He loved comics. He was a fetishizer of these sometimes considered lower art forms, and he would mix them together like a painter in all kinds of impressionistic ways, and sometimes elevate them to maybe not high art, but certainly an art that was worth investigating. To me, one of the greatest examples of this, and one of the most frustrating, because it's never really widely been shown in the West as it was intended, is this film right here. Can you see that? Look at that terrible lighting. Succubus! Let's move over here so you can't see it. Succubus! That's the back. You can't see that any better. Well, my video camera decided to sunder this video in half, much like it did to my last Jess Franco. I am not going to repeat what I already did. I've been doing a lot of that lately, and they've been coming out pretty good. But this is really pretty free form. I'm going to go with this. So stick with me. I hope you watched part 1 first. Please watch part 1. If you watched part 1, well, you won't be hearing this, but watch part 2. A lot of people watch Venus in first, part 1. And there's about a 30 people view disparity between the two. So, that many people just kind of like, nah, I'm not going to get into part 2. Thereby not just cheating me, but cheating themselves. So how's the lighting? Yeah, that's pretty good. Succubus, the sensual experience of 1969. So, starring Jack Taylor, a regular in a lot of Franco offerings. Screenplay by Pierre A. Carmenio, I think, was a producer. Produced by Adrian Hovan, who does play in the movie in this bizarre, godlike Machiavellian character. Directed by Jess Franco, who does also appear as a member of... Is he a member of the... I don't think he appears as a member of the band in this. He does that in Venus and Furs. He has some kind of small appearance in this, I think. Now, this in the back says copyright 1969, Trans-American Films. And these were not films for transgendered people back then. Color runtime 76 minutes, not rated. I'm going to read you the sum on here. The plot is, as in many Francos and many films of the fantastique, from Jean Rollin to Jean-Marie Gires, the plot is not germane to enjoying the film, in my opinion. So let's see what this offers us as far as linear storytelling on the back here. The sensual experience of 69. Beautiful Lorna is a nightclub dancer in one of Lisbon's most fashionable bars. You can't read it very well. The Snob Club? Is that really the name of it? Yeah, unless I'm hallucinating. That sounds really silly. Her story is composed of the deep blues of reality, the blood reds of fantasy, and the fearful blacks of the supernatural. Her show, which she performs every night, is full of sensuality and ultimately ends with a killing. Real? Her performance is a fantastic success, but Lorna, mentally influenced by the character she portrays, slowly loses contact with reality and becomes lost in the twilight zone of her schizophrenic mind. Her manager, Bill Mulligan, which I think that's Jack Taylor, has more than just a business interest in Lorna and tries to help. Yes, they are lovers. Bill Mulligan also is the name of a big cineast here in the Carolinas. I think slightly older than me, that I befriended at a panel at Con Carolinas 2014. And don't hear much from him, but he is in my Facebook Film Rip Deep Images, which you should check out. Little does he, Bill, know that his search for the cause of her behavior will turn into a nightmare that even he cannot escape. So this is presented in a full-frame 133:1 presentation with a theatrical trailer. Not the correct ratio. There's one of the posters, Sensual Experience of 69. That light seems a little dim, but I'll try to wheel it over here. It's real stark chiaroscuro lighting. Of course, the disc itself is very lovely, with Lori getting ready to crack the proverbial whip. The other thing is chapter stops. I can't remember if I bought this really cheaply or if they sent it to me for review. I think they sent it to me for review because I did review it for IndieFile, which was based in Charlotte and distributed through the Carolinas, some of Virginia, some of Georgia. We had World Conquest in mind, but that was not meant to be. I wrote about film and music there from September 1996 until December 1999. The last things I sent with then editor Scott Homewood, he did not publish. And my work there was picked up about a year and a half later in a small indie file-like publication called Music Comment, one word, published by Samir Shukla, who founded IndieFile in 1993. He was a very important man in the scene here. He co-founded, the Milestone Club, Milestone Records, and a lot grew out of that. A lot he never really got enough credit for. I think he had to sell his stakes in Milestone Club. I think at one time he was involved with Pterodactyl, a kind of a new wave post-punk dance club, industrial dance club. But Milestone Records, he kept almost bitter end. He sold it to a man named Jason Herring, who had kind of a mildly interesting shoegaze group called Moonburn. Herring himself is still rather active from what I got on Facebook. I haven't really friended him, but we have some common friends. He was a long-time clerk at Record Exchange, and then later at Milestone. A good guy, good at heart. I don't know what his current tastes are. I know he's still really into local regional music and live music. And of course, post-COVID, we're in the middle of a renaissance of live music. And what I'm watching on YouTube, man, people, young and old bands are playing. They're playing like there's no tomorrow, literally, because they've been cooped up. I mean, it's like, damn, let's go for it one last time. And it's beautiful to see. The Hellfest with all these old hardcore punk and D-beat crust punk bands. Wow. It's incredible shit. So anyway. Succubus. I first read about Succubus in 1992 through this bizarre photocopied catalog of Mondo video. This was borrowed from my then roommate. Were we roommates at that time? Or about to be roommates? About to be roommates. Jason Brock. And on the side of his apartment complex, the Sharon Arms, there was this kind of out of the way laundry room, and it was kind of spooky. It had a ceiling that kind of inclined, which didn't bother most people because I'm kind of short. Had one light, and it was not great lighting. I had a washer and dryer, and they were strong, and the washer, it's hard to really set to any lower setting, and so it tended to run hot. And I had mostly cotton, all black clothes. A lot of my nice all black clothes shrank. Wasn't too bad back then because I was skinny, but when I tried to wear them a couple of years later, that was that. Jason fared about the same. So Jason said, Tim gave me this catalog, check it out. And he had been checking it out and reeling off some stuff to me, and for shock value. And of course, I was shocked, but I was fascinated. I was really diving into this realm of extreme horror and cinema, and just the idea of cinema as an art form to pursue had not really occurred to me before I was in my very early 20s. There was literature, there was comic books, there was television when I was younger. And of course, I liked movies during a young period. And then music took over for the most part. But by then I was writing my own stories, drawing my own stories, trying to. My hair's going crazy here, but it's like horns. But so he went upstairs, had dinner, went to sleep. And I did some laundry, and I labored in this room. I kind of walked around the small room, waiting for my clothes to dry. And I absorbed this catalog, like beginning to end. And all these names were permeating my brain, like Hodorowski, and Roland, and Franco, and Bucharite, and Zulawski, and Lewis, and all these names that later came to mean either quite a great deal for me, or they meant something to me. I learned about them, and some of them came to mean a great deal. Pasolini was one. This guy had bootlegs for everything. And from what I understand, the Mondo video guy at Tennessee ripped a lot of people off. Including, I think, my friend Tim McLain. He can answer that better than me. But you know what a scallywag, man. What a fucking scallywag. So let's do this. So but man, that kind of like scared me, crept me out, informed me, and made me want to go in a different direction. It was a catalyst, a indispensable catalyst, and it was the shape of things to come in my life. Seeking out these movies, enjoying them, and in turn, like these guys at Montevideo, writing hyperbolic reviews of them. Succubus was a movie that's mentioned in passing. I don't remember if they sold it. It gripped my imagination, and one reason it gripped my imagination was a couple of years later, when I was working at the newly opened Barnes and Noble here, the first one in North Carolina, I purchased the Phil Hardy Encyclopedia of Horror, which had been known as the All Room Encyclopedia of Horror, and Phil Hardy repackaged it, edited it, and employed some really great writers. He did writing, and then, of course, one of his major writers was Kim Newman, who, of course, is a jack of all trades, novelist, movie critic, pastiche writer, what have you. And he's kind of the, I don't want to say the poor man's, but he's kind of a, he's not in the top rung of these guys, but he definitely is in the lineage of like Alan Moore, Neil Gaiman, Clive Barker. And as a movie critic, I think he is mined that style and that sensibility the most. Now, there are other writers who have developed their own sensibility, not quite as harsh and maybe unforgiving, and I don't want to say know it all because he really did know it all, but not as much in that vein as Newman. People like Travis Crawford, who I didn't know that well, but I sadly want to say he passed away the other day. People like Travis Crawford, Tim Lucas, Craig Ledbetter, Paul Gaeta, Stephen Pekalski, Bill White. Occasionally, really young people throw me in with those guys, but I don't think I tried to. I was aspiring to be in that pantheon. But of course, now we're talking about people like Heather Drain, Sam Dane, and Kat Ellinger, and there's more female voices and younger voices, millennial to Gen X voices, and I think they're kind of inheriting that zine thing that I was trying to be part of. So R.I.P. Travis Crawford. Bill White helped me with a lot of this stuff, giving me information. Craig Ledbetter, I would call and ask questions about this stuff, and until I finally kind of annoyed the hell out of him. Tom Weiser. I had a copy of Succubus on videotape. I didn't get it as a review thing like I later did with him. I got it when I was still kind of a customer. So my hair, I have a horn. So a horny man. So I had like, we're talking about $25 plus $5 postage. So $30 for a movie you have never seen. Let's get down to business here. Not a very good print. Hard to complain as a customer because you never ever know what's going to happen because he's got all the answers. And frankly, you don't have the answers. And that's the thing, and Tom Weiser went back and forth between me as a customer and just kind of humoring me. To me, when I was out of work for quite a few months and my back was fucked up, and the only way I could get access to his tapes was through my then roommate, occasional girlfriend would purchase some, which was cool because that's when I first got to see Tristana and Candy. And then the last phase of my dealings with Tom was when I became a published critic for Indie File, Terminal Brain Rot, and Shock Cinema. So he began sending me tons of tapes. But he had sent me a tape that I bought, Succubus, and I really liked it. And I did a review of it, small review, in one of my early Indie Files where I was doing tons of capsule reviews. Like this week I got such and such and such and such from Video Search or Anchor Bay, who were sending me a lot of stuff there. And I would try to give them kind of a nod. You know, I couldn't do full-length reviews of everything because my editor, Scott Homewood, was an uptight dude, and all he cared about was ads. And he would constantly squish my content down to like, you know, let's get it down to 14 point here, font. Such a badly run operation. So anyway, that bottomed out. I thought when Terminal Brain Rot's Michael Hugan moved away, looked like there was hope to do another issue, despite it being submitted long distance, because he had been in Charlotte too. And I did a really nice interview with Rudy Ray Moore and recorded it. And the issue just never came to be, so really I was putting all my eggs in the Shock Cinema basket because he was getting the attention, he was getting the distribution. And then my friend Bill White turned me on to Video Eyeball, and I became a staff writer there. And I in turn recommended him from a Raleigh, North Carolina-based magazine called EYE Capitals Magazine. This was a period from like August 1996 to December 1999. It was very intense. And most of the work came out of it between September 96, I'll say around late fall 99. The very best work really from me and Bill White and a lot of these guys came out in late 97 to late 98. There was a period where I was printing our best stuff, new stuff. I mean, when I say our best, my best to date. Bill had done plenty of great stuff. Travis Crawford was making the full migration from VHS to DVD, exploring it well. And one of the first he did was the deluxe DVD by All Day Entertainment of Ganja and Hess, which was a landmark release. It was something that it was DVD only. So it was an incentive for collectors in this milieu to hop on the DVD train. Anyway, Anchor Bay came along and began doing these movies in beautifully remastered VHS editions and eventually DVD. And it was amazing. And of course, they were competition for people like Tom Weiser and Video Search, who were doing the bootleg gray market circuit. Eventually, the gray market died as you had more and more legit companies risking putting the money into. These restorations aren't cheap, these movies. And Anchor Bay made them just pop. So one of the ones they did was Succubus. And Lustig had told me himself in 1997 on the phone. I called his house one time. Jay Douglas gave me his home number, and he's like, "It's cool, call Bill." I call, and he's like, "It's Bill Lustig. What you doing, Henry? You don't have a copy of Maniac Cop? I'm sending it right to you, buddy." And we were talking about, I mentioned Jess Franco. I don't really care for Jess Franco. All this Jess Franco fans, you know, I mean, it's kind of trashy. But then he put this out. And with Blue Underground, he put out a bunch of Jess Franco. So is Severin. But yeah, Blue Underground put out a ton of Jess Franco Blu-rays. Bless his heart. I think he converted. Because Tom Weiss used to tell me he didn't think Franco was that great, but at his greatest, he was pretty much the most interesting, fascinating, and misunderstood filmmaker. I'll go with that. So we talked about the plot of Succubus, and we looked in here. Look at this little kind of S&M thing with her going to whip this guy chained to an X-shaped cross. Imagery in this movie is unforgettable. I first saw the imagery in a video search compilation of clips for video search titles. For when you become a member, you would pay $10 to have access to their library. And we just ate it up, man. I bet a lot of people watching this, older fans, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to give shout outs to my buddies like Tim McLain and Robert Monell. You guys know exactly what I'm talking about. As Tom himself used to advertise, he had these little quotes he would throw in there. It's the only game in town, man. This is the only way you're going to see this. You can't be inattentive about all blips and washed out colors, man, because this is the only game in town. He had us by the balls, man. Our desire to evolve as cineasts was tied up with this guy's 10,000 tape collection, many of which he had never, by his own admission, had never even watched for quality control. The saga of video search. That subject, maybe one day I'll cover it. Or just my experiences with video search. But I'm covering a lot here. So anyway, we're on to the Blue Underground era, and things are changing, they're shifting, and there's actually a DVD of this. So the DVD, it looks nice. Nicer than my VHS did that I reviewed for IndieFile. It's clean, but it's soft. The image is soft. However, there are portions of the movie where the image is directly really soft, where you're in kind of a fantasy / flashback / alternate world. Of course, in a sensual way and in an inscrutable way. I would say that Succubus is a nice locus point for Franco. He was working in Germany at this time. He did a number of great films in this era. Lucky the Inscrutable, which I have a burnt copy of, which isn't like totally remastered, but it's a trip. It should be out officially by Mondo Macabro if it isn't planned already. Lucky the Inscrutable is a Franco's parody of spy movies. It's super high energy, super kitschy. Okay, then in Germany he did a two-part. Well, I don't know if he's trying to do a franchise. The Red Lip or Rote Lippen Girls, played by Rosanna Yanni and Janine Reynaud herself. Who, by the way, was a little older than Rosanna Rani and some of the older. I think she was well into her 30s when she did this. She was kind of the Georgina Spelman of Spanish exploitation. The Red Lip Girls were like these kind of hapless detectives. There's a lot of humor. The one I love, I had a great dupe of Redemption's PAL VHS transferred to NTSC. That I bought at HeroesCon 1995 along with several of their bootlegs. And it was Sadist Erotica. Some people call the movie Sadist Erotica, and that was the actual original title. In time, it became known as Kiss Me Monster. It's fine. I still call it Sadist Erotica like one word, like me and my ex-girlfriend would mispronounce it. Sadist Erotica is an absolute, I'm gonna kick it old school here. Sadist Erotica is an absolute fucking trip. to me is fun from beginning to end. Because then they did one called, let me think here. No, so Distoerotica is the one that became like the Roten Lippen. I don't think that one's ever, Two Undercover Angels. When it finally got to the point of Anchor Bay and then Blue Underground, which Jay and Bill Lustig and David Gregory broke away to found. They actually put them on one disc, I believe, or a 2-disc set. Two Undercover Angels, which had been Sadista Erotica. And the other one, Kiss Me Monster. I had received a videotape copying a clamshell box, a black and green cover called Kiss Me Monster to review from Anchor Bay early on. And I did mention in one of my Halloween special, 1998. I didn't receive a Two Undercover Angels, and so I never had an upgrade of Sadista Erotica, but I had my Sadista Erotica. Now, I don't think I've heard rumors of those two, the Red Lip Girls, are going to be on one Blu-ray, like they were on one DVD set. He's got them. He should put them out on Blue Underground. I'll have to research. If they're out, ignore me. I'm not reviewing them anyway, but I'm kind of setting the milieu for his German period. And what I'm getting at is I purchased this Phil Hardy Encyclopedia of Horror. So I looked up Succubus, and I tried to learn more about Jesus Franco and Janine Renaud and Adrian Hoban and this whole scene. And here's the deal. So the film was called, let me look something real quick. The film was 92 minutes long. Respectable hour-and-a-half feature. Well, I don't know if it's respectable in this point, but called Necronomicon. That's the movie I want to see. God damn it. But it became Succubus. It was shorter, 16 minutes, and it became a mystery. And when Franco put this out, like I said, the print is the best you'd seen up to that time. It's a great film to me. It's very inscrutable, deliberately or not. Hard to understand, but it is 76 minutes, and it's kind of pan and scan. The image is not a full widescreen. So this is beautiful, but it is a flawed creation. Now, has Bill Lustig or the late Jay Douglas, have they put out Succubus on Blue Underground? Like they have the Red Lip Girls and numerous other Francos? The answer is no. And as far as I know, this is out of print. I really want to sell this. I'm only holding on to this because I'm like, they'll never ever come out. Now, I was on the site Vimeo, and I can't remember who tipped me off to this. I want to say it was my friend Sean Lee Levin. But somebody tipped me off about 3 years ago to the remaining Necronomicon footage. The 16 minutes were on Vimeo. So I watched it. I didn't have a fancy rig and technical skills where I could like dupe this and make an image, make a composite print. I wish I had. But, mentally I could, slot it into all these parts. I knew this movie like the back of my hand by that time. And I was like, Necronomicon, man. So I went back with the intention to download that footage just a couple months later, and it was gone. I don't know if anyone's restored it. I haven't looked for it in a while. Last time I searched was about 6 months ago, and nothing. So where is Necronomicon? That is the big question. To me, this represents, or will represent, the absolute peak, apex zenith of Jesus Franco's German period. Janine Renaud, his muse. He's strongly influenced by fumetti and comic books and sadist erotica, S&M, bondage and discipline. If it falls out, I'll punish you. The whole 9 yards. And Lorna, a name he uses in a lot of films, like Lorna the Exorcist. Lorna in this film is depicted as this moody woman who on one hand is this kind of dominatrix. She does performance theater, and it's all theater. It looks like she kills the man and a woman, but she doesn't really kill them. But she's edging closer to that because she's under the mind control of this guy played by Adrian Hoven, an actor in this, but a prominent producer of the German films in this milieu, who helped Franco a lot. Adrian Hoven is one of those figures who there's lots yet to be known about. Adrian Hoven has these mystical eyes. They focus on, or is that Michelle Lemoine? I'm getting them mixed up. That's Michelle Lemoine. Adrian Hoven is that figure I depicted, but there's also Michelle Lemoine. Michelle Lemoine is another figure who figures into this whole soup of creators in this period who work together. Now, Adrian Hoven worked on Mark of the Devil with Udo Kier, an infamous early nunsploitation, demonic possession, all that torture of the nuns kind of film in the wake that came in the wake of the Devils. Mark of the Devil is one of the most notorious. And Anchor Bay, sure enough, put that on videotape uncut early on. I had that copy. I haven't had that copy. I don't have a copy of it right now. So Adrian Hoven and Michelle Lemoine. Michelle Lemoine's got this, looming eyes and this narration, and it might not be him. It probably isn't English. Lorna, you were born to be one of mine, to be the embodiment of all evil. And I should close up my eyes right here. I can't do it. And so he's mind controlling this dancer / performance artist, who in her personal life is this kind of bon vivant party girl who has a real soft spot for Bill Mulligan. Did I say that Bill Mulligan was the manager? Her manager. And he does voiceovers. Not really Bill Jack Taylor, the actor doing them. Jack Taylor was a perennial favorite of Franco's. One of the last movies Jack Taylor ever did was Roman Polanski's The Ninth Gate. He had a small but very cool part in that because they're going to another country. The characters played by Johnny Depp and James Russo, and they encounter this cat and he helps them out. And of course, I think it's a country that Robert Taylor and what's his name? I can get his name. Jack Taylor in real life lived in. Yeah, he met a horrible doom, just as James Russo did, on the way to trying to get this magic book back from Johnny Depp, if you recall The Ninth Gate, which is based on an inscrutable, and I would say essential for this kind of stuff, book called The Club du Mans by Perez Rivette. So I hope you've taken notes on all this. Jack Taylor as the boyfriend, or his, I don't know if he overdubs himself, but he has these long drives where he has these POV shots and he's thinking about Lorna and it's getting very existentialist. So again, you have another input. Okay, so this is the mid-60s, right? This is 1966, isn't this correct? Jean-Luc Godard. This is very Jean-Luc Godard. It's got the flights of fantasy. It's got the longing for romance and portrayed cinematically in a weird and off-kilter visual sense. And the narration where the guy's like, he can't figure her out. He can't figure out why she's changed. Godard ruminated on this endlessly, and everything from Abu du Souffle to Masculine Feminine, Contempt, Le Mépris, what did he not ruminate about it? Let's see, Robopog he did. A Woman is a Woman, that was where he was at. Godard's film were on one hand very cerebral, and they were just fucking with the structure of a film itself. I get excited still when I saw Alphaville. Even in Alphaville, there's that quandary about love in the middle of this weird sci-fi pulp thing, and that's one thing that makes it so brilliant and so Godard. One day I'll do a proper review of Alphaville. I do have the wonderful Kino Lorber Classics Blu-ray, which I think is the final word visually and sonically on the movie. So this Godard kind of creeps into Succubus, and as Corrado Farina said through George Eastman's lips in Baba Yaga, yeah, but Godard is Godard, but that's different, In other words, you can follow his trajectory, you can try to ape him, but it doesn't matter if you're Quentin Tarantino or Hal Hartley, or how well you ape him, you're never going to be Godard. And they've, Quentin Tarantino's aped Godard quite a bit, and to me, very poorly. Hal Hartley has aped Godard a bit, somewhat well, but he's still, Godard is Godard. So, Succubus has a supernatural tinge to it. You don't know whose morning it is. It's really the devil incarnate in flesh, as Michel Lemoine is trying to tell us through his close-up mystical, magical scenes. But she seems like just a woman who does this stuff because she's got a kink, pays money, and off camera, her and her manager Bill are really lovers. They're really in love, and Bill is tormented over her because he's wondering, can he divide these two sides of Lorna? And of course he wants reassurance that Lorna can divide these two sides. But when they're together, they're putting on records, they're dancing, they're taking their clothes off. There's a very organic strand in this movie that a lot of people just miss out on. Maybe I'm hallucinating it. But I remember when I reviewed it for Indie File, and I said, I'm coming to this movie cold after hearing about it for years, but for some reason it has affected me deeper than any of the other movies I've reviewed lately. I don't know why. So after 25 years, I do know why. It's everything I mentioned. It's the psychosexual aspect. It's the music, the milieu, the time, the pop culture. It's the forbidden sexuality with the performance art and the S&M kind of symbolism. It's the Godard-like, it's kind of like the Zeitgeist of Godard and capture. It's the feeling of being in love with, witnessing a wild one, a bad girl, so to speak, a woman who is in control of her various personae, and she is losing control. And she is losing control because the devil, some people have speculated Michel Lemoine's character is literally Satan and is seducing Lorna literally into this life of black magic. Any interpretation is fine. I like all of them. I mean, give me your interpretation. What is Succubus fucking about? This needs to be on a super deluxe Blu-ray as soon as humanly possible, totally remastered with all of the footage as Necronomicon. I command thee to do it. Severin's gotta do it. They're at the gates because I don't think Lustig and Blue Underground are gonna follow through with this. I don't. They've dragged their feet on shit already. I mean, they dragged their feet on Django to where Arrow slapped up some rights and put out this amazing edition. And then they had it cease and desist. They had the deluxe steelbook, which I own. I had lucked out into the pre-orders. They pulled it off the shelves. They later reprinted the non-steelbook one, which is still in print, and they conceded. And as part of their concession, they also conceded ownership to release Kioma, which they had done before. Beautiful Anchor Bay presentation. The cover art wasn't that great, but the movie looks fantastic. Another favorite of mine. And Arrow did a definitive Blu-ray version, which I unfortunately have never owned. A few of my good friends and patrons here do have copies. Maybe they'll take pity on me and give me a copy. So, anyway, I'm here. The lighting's bad, but this bad boy is Succubus. Pretty sure this is out of print. I treasure this. I still might sell it. I'll be selling it for quite a good bit. I can't imagine selling this for less than $85, $90, at least starting. But I take offers. It means a lot to me. Done a lot of reviews, a lot of talking about it, and seeing that Necronomicon footage really brought home that Phil Hardy review about it, and I think it needs to be seen in this definitive fashion. I love it. It's one of my favorites. So there goes another Extreme Forgotten and another Jesus Franco. Probably won't be getting back to him again anytime soon, because a lot of his are coming out officially. So Venus and Fur, Succubus, get with it, guys. I just want to take a minute before I sign off to thank my channel patrons, Tim Tolbert, Sean Lee Levin, Shelly Druckery, Drew Dahmer, Mick Cantone, the mysterious Terry Mulford. And speaking of Mick Cantone, he is a patron because he has sent me the new album by his band Children of Minerva, who I have followed since their inception. It was founded by two Cine-ass friends of mine. Now the lineup's evolved a bit, and he's going in some other different directions. I have sampled it, but I have not listened to the whole, opus. So I'll be doing a rare album review very soon, as soon as I can digest Children of Minerva's second album. So I wanted to thank him. I want to thank Tim McLain. He has not overtly donated to this channel an object of review, but he has donated to my current GoFundMe. He's donated to previous ones. He's been a very close friend and mentor of mine, on and off, mostly on since 1991. So that's like a 30-year friendship. So Tim, you are the motherfucking man, and he is still helping me kind of to survive. I mean, he's having hard times too, but where he can, he's helping me get through. One of my few friends in Charlotte left in this whole area, in the flesh, friends. Red Hunter Thompson is another. I'll thank him too. Thank you, Rhett. He has not really done anything related to this channel, but he did help me with some errands and acquisition of dedication and money a couple of months ago, and I really appreciate it. So, and he's always around the chat. He has a very similar worldview as mine. I love all of you guys. I love all of you guys a lot. Thanks everyone who wished me happy birthday, and thank you to everybody who's liking the channel. Please hit the like button. And thank you for all the views. The channel is going to explode in 2023. I promise you. It's on an incline. So we're going to blow up. We're going to talk about all kinds of movies and weird shit and comic books, pop culture stuff, politics, the way of the world. It's all here, man. I got shows in the can that I haven't even put up yet that I'm really happy with, but I'm just kind of biding my time, and also promotion of my own website, www.henrycoversflickerstreet.net. Check it out. I'll put the link below. It is growing, filled with characters and stories and scenarios, and they're hard to all piece together at first. But they will reveal themselves to you as they reveal themselves to me in time. And I hope you will like them. I have gotten a tentative alliance going with Nita Lanning, who is an absolutely brilliant and gorgeous comic book savant, who is probably, in my opinion, probably the most connected and powerful indie comic promoter right now on social media. So she has agreed to take a look at Flickr Street and my other work, and give me a shot as part of her, stable of people she is mentoring and promoting and helping. And that is an incredible honor. So thank you, Nita. You rock. You all rock. Take care.